Hi there, after using the Kobo Sage for a little while now, I can confidently say this is the best Kobo out there that you can buy, and spoiler alert, I actually think it's better than the Kobo Ellipsa pack, which costs $150 more. This is definitely the best Kobo out there right now. In today's video, I'll be doing a deep dive review of the Kobo Sage. We're going to start by talking about the buying experience, followed by the specs and features of the device, and then lastly, we'll do a bit of a recap and share my personal thoughts about the Kobo Sage. Now really quick, one thing I want to mention is I often get asked what books I like to read on my Kobo or Kindle, and I get this asked so much I decided to make an email newsletter called Bookmarks. Every week, once a week on Wednesday, I send out an email with my top lessons learned from the books I'm currently reading. If that sounds interesting to you, link in the description down below where you can subscribe. Alright, with that being said, let's jump into the review. The first thing I want to talk about is the buying experience of the Kobo Sage. This device is actually one of the top tier Kobos you can buy right now. The price of the Sage is $259 US. It's $10 more than the Kobo Forma, which is surprisingly still on sale. This kind of feels like the Kobo Forma 2, but it's not. It's the Kobo Sage, so you can buy either device right now, and it sits right below the Kobo Ellipsa, which is $150 more. So it's definitely one of the more premium models you can buy from Kobo right now. In terms of configuration, you can't really configure anything on this device. It only comes in black. It only comes in 32 gigabytes of storage. No options there at all. But if you do want to buy a sleep cover, you can pay $50 extra and get a different color sleep cover if you want to spice things up with your Kobo. Now let's actually move on to the features and specs of this device. I want to start by talking about the build quality on the back. This is a typical Kobo design. It has a nice rubbery finish on the back of the device. It has that typical Kobo texture. There are a few pros and cons to this. The cons, crumbs and fingerprints are very prone on this device. It gets very dirty very quickly, but the good thing about this rubbery texture, it's very, very grippy. Unlike my Kindle, on the Kobo, I really feel comfortable holding this device without needing to buy a case for it. Now, while we're on the back of this device, let me also talk about this power button on the back. They really took this power button directly from the Libra 2, and I really, really appreciate it. The Kobo Forma, which is the same exact size as the Kobo Sage, has the worst power button, and I was really afraid they were going to keep that power button along for the new device, and they did not do that. They took the best power button they have from the Kobo Libra, and they put it on this device, and I couldn't be more thrilled about it. This is a circular button on the back of the device. It's a really great place to put it on the back. I really like it. I also like the circular design. I do wish it was on the other side, on the right side, where the page turn buttons were, so I can easily power this device off and on with one hand. But putting that aside, it's still a great button. Even though it's on the other side of the device, it's still a very welcome change, and I really, really love this new button design, especially when compared to the Kobo Forma, which had the worst button I've ever used. I couldn't even press that thing down. The other very welcome change I appreciate from the Kobo Sage is USB-C. They have the USB-C port on the side of the device over here, and it even comes with a nice premium quality USB-C cable. It's definitely a more high quality cable compared to the Libra 2 that I just got as well. So I do appreciate that they send a premium cable with a premium device. With that being said though, I actually prefer using my iPad and laptop chargers for my e-readers now. It just makes it so much easier carrying around one charger for all my devices. It's really cool to see that Kobo is bringing USB-C to all their devices now. It's really, really welcome change. Now, even though there's USB-C on this device, you don't really need it that much because the battery on this device will last you several weeks. They don't really advertise how long the battery will last, but it does last for several weeks at a time. And with USB-C charging, it makes it very easy to charge up very quickly. I do love the battery on all my readers, especially the larger device like this. It has even a bigger battery, so it lasts even longer. Now let's move on to the front of this device. They actually changed the design of the front, and you'll be seeing that I compare this a lot to the Kobo Forma because the general form factor is the same, but they made some updates. The first thing they did is they removed the rubber side that the Kobo Forma had. The Forma has this rubber texture right where the page turn buttons are across that whole ergonomic side. That is gone. They completely modernized modernized it, and we have a glass front all the way around, and I really like this new design. It also has a very sleek curve going to it, just like the Kobo Libra 2, so it just looks aesthetically much nicer, and it feels a lot nicer in the hand when you're holding it too. Like I mentioned, it has an ergonomic design with very small bezels around the whole side, except the right side where you can put your hand to hold. And on the same side, you have two page turn buttons. Let's talk about these page turn buttons. If you follow my videos, you know this is a very hot topic for me, but I have to say Kobo outdid themselves with the Sage. These are the best page turn buttons I've ever seen from Kobo. With the new Libra 2, I really do not like those page turn buttons. They don't work in certain places, but with the Kobo Sage, they are perfect. They work no matter where you press them. All parts of the button have a click point, so you can press them on the bottom, the top. No matter where you press the button, it'll work. It has a nice finish to it. It's very quiet actually when you press the button, so if you're reading at night, you won't disturb anyone next to you if you're reading with your partner. It works really nicely, and it just feels so nice to press. It's very squishy. It's definitely a huge improvement from all the other buttons they ship on all their other products. Let's talk about the display on the Kobo Sage. This device is super crispy. I really love the display on this device. It has an 8-inch display, which is about 1 inch bigger than the Kindle Oasis, as well as the Kindle Paperwhite and the Libra 2, one of the larger screens you can see out there right now. It also has the new e-ink Kartra 1200 display. What this means is it still has a 300 ppi resolution, but it just looks so much more crispy than every other display. The Libra 2 has this new display panel as well, and there's a noticeable difference when you put it side by side with the older Kindles and Kobos. This device just looks so nice to read on, better blacks, better contrast. It just looks much more high definition when you're reading on it. Now, one thing I want to know about this new display, it's just as crispy as my Libra 2. And in my Libra 2 review video, several people were commenting about the flush display comment that I made. I was complaining about the Libra 2 not having a flush display, and several people were commenting about how that actually achieves a more crispy display. However, the Kobo Sage does have a flush display, and it's just as crispy as the Libra 2. I really love how this achieved the flush premium design while still keeping that nice crispy text on the display. So it just goes to show the Kobo Sage has a flush screen, and it has just as crispy of a screen as the Libra 2. If they're different in terms of their crispiness, it's very hard to tell the difference. To my eye, they look exactly the same, and the Sage has a flush screen. I really love that premium feeling you get with an all glass front screen. Now, a couple other things I need to mention over here. The Kobo Sage actually has a warm light temperature control display. And this is actually really important because the Kobo Ellipsa does not have a warm light temperature control. So this actually is better than the Ellipsa in that regard. The Ellipsa actually does not even have a 300 ppi resolution. So both in resolution and with warm light temperature control, the screen on the Kobo Sage is better than the Ellipsa. I also really love the shortcut that they have on all the Kobos. You can simply drag your finger on the left side of the screen and adjust the brightness of the screen. Now, I will say the Kobo Sage does not have an ambient light sensor, which seems to be a major selling point for the Kindles right now, but the Kobo does not have that. It's not the biggest deal at all. Adjusting brightness on the screen with that shortcut is very easy to do. Now, the Kobo Sage also has dark mode, which is something that a lot of people out there really appreciate. You simply go to the settings, press this checkbox, it'll invert the colors with a black background and white text, which might be very helpful for reading at night. Now, let me talk about the biggest feature selling point of the Kobo Sage, and that is Stylus Support. This device is a game changer because it takes the best of both worlds from being an e-reader as well as being a note-taking device. Now, the Kobo Ellipsa was just shipped earlier this year. I have a whole video talking about that, but that device really was not meant for reading. There's no warm light, and the resolution on that device is not as good as all the other e-readers. The Kobo Sage fixes all of that and still has Stylus support, which makes this device an all-in-one awesome package. Now, the Stylus is sold sold separately for $40. You don't even have to use these features if you don't want to, but if you do buy the Stylus, you unlock some extra features. You can annotate while reading, you can underline things, you can circle things, you can make the margins bigger and put notes on the sides. For someone who annotates a lot, this could be something that's very, very useful. It could be a game changer for you if this is important to you. Another great feature they added to the Sage, where they took from the Ellipsa, is the notebook feature. You can actually create virtual notebooks on your Kobo Sage. You can change the background of the paper, you can have a bullet journal, you can have lines, you can have a graph, you can have blank, whatever you want, and you can take notes on your Sage over here with the Stylus. This is a game changer for people who want a note-taking device but also want to read all in one place. This is a very, very awesome thing they added to the Sage. Now, to keep up with all these note-taking features, they really had to put a very powerful processor in this device. They have a 1.8 gigahertz quad-core processor powering the Kobo Sage. In comparison, most other e-readers only have a 1 gigahertz processor, single core. So this is a very big deal. It's very, very snappy. It actually works very well for general use. Honestly though, the Kobo platform is already very well optimized, so I'm not really seeing too much of a difference in terms of speed, but definitely here and there, the speed of this device definitely shows with everyday tasks because of that new processor. It works really, really well. Now, for most people here, you're probably not going to see much of a difference when using your Kobo. Don't expect massive improvements. It does work a little bit faster, but not by much, especially if you're using the Stylus support. It does get a bit laggy at times. I've had a few issues here and there, but it does work very reliably, and I do appreciate they added more processing power to compensate for the new features. A couple other notable features that I want to mention: they also have Bluetooth support in the Kobo Sage, so if you're a Kobo audiobook person, you can stream those directly on your Kobo. For me personally, I listen to all my audiobooks on my phone, so that's really not an issue for me, but for some people that might be very useful. And then also, this device is water resistant, so you can read this device in the bathtub, in the pool, near the beach, whatever you want to do. That feature is there too. Now let me recap a bit what my thoughts are about this Kobo Sage. I don't know why they're still selling the Kobo Forma. In my opinion, this is the Kobo Forma 2 with a bunch of new features. It's the same price as the Forma 2, $10 more. It makes no sense to buy a Kobo Forma right now. Just buy the Kobo Sage. It works so much better. I will say, as of making this video, the Forma is on sale. So unless they plan to decrease the price of the Forma, it does not make sense to buy it. Unless you get a good deal on it, it might be worth it then. But for most people, if you're buying it full price, the Kobo Sage is a better option. I really appreciate that they kept the main features of the Kobo Forma, like the 8-inch display and the general form factor of it, and they simply improved upon it by making the power button better and adding USB-C, and also adding a bunch of features from the Ellipsa, like the Stylus support. This device is a killer for the Ellipsa too. If you care about reading and note-taking, this device is cheaper than the Ellipsa and actually works better. In my personal opinion, I think this is a glimpse of what we're going to be seeing with the Kindle Oasis in the future, combining the powers of reading and note-taking all into one device. I'm very interested to see how Amazon will be responding to the Kobo Sage, but for right now, this is what we have. I think this is the most premium e-reader you can buy right now, all in one package. I really, really love it. Now, if you enjoyed this video, I want to recommend my Libra 2 review. That is a device just below this. If you don't care about some of the premium features, that might be a better option for you. Link on the screen right now for that. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.